Hiya, welcome to this, finally, my 105th episode of VideoFuzzy. I'm your host, Terry J. Aman, sifting my basket of media memories, and in this installment, titled Happy Town 2, I make good on a promise to revisit that short-run speculative series once I got it all. Also, I talk leverage with a friend of mine from my theater days in Minogue, comments on Rizzoli and Isles, Haven, covert affairs, and I share part 2 of my interview with musician DJ Benjamin Cole. Welcome to the show.
He doesn't have it on video, does he? We'll find out together on VideoFuzzy.
Yeah, for the first time since November, I got a new VideoFuzzy the soundtrack entry put together. This one talking about world music and the K artists in my collection. In July, musician and DJ Benjamin Cole of Guadalajara, big fan of his, was at an event 8 hours up the road from me in Vegas, and I figured I was never going to have a better opportunity to meet. So reached out to him, and he made time for me. Oh, goodness, he and his husband and collaborator, Jose Spinning Cortez, absolutely beautiful men, shared time, space, and insights with me. Ben also shared a sneak peek at some of the music he crafted for the new LP release, slated for release on the 22nd here, Dance, Love, Dream. Pre-ordered, absolutely. Very excited. We also talked about his music videos, which I archived several in my collection in anticipation of this interview, and I'll share some of his comments when I get to that part. But yeah, that interview, and also I talked about Kiss with Jason Lund, best friend from high school, and I'd say formative influence on my musical taste. So yep, that was a wide-ranging episode and a lot of fun putting it together. Check it out. Also in the past month, I've been hard at work transitioning to a new tower, which represents a phenomenal upgrade. Thank you, Ralph, as well as organizing my files, my books, and what media made it in the move from Bismarck to here. I can report some significant losses. At least one case of commercial VHS tapes and some commercial and home-burn DVDs never made it here. That said, quite a lot did. I'm already replacing the most significant gaps in my collection, and until I get my entire classic collection cataloged, I'd have a little time to kick back and watch it all anyway. That said, my office, home library, and reading nook and recording space looks amazing with everything that did make the trip. My books have been crammed in, double-shelved, poorly displayed for years, and I wanted to do better in our new home. We don't have a lot more display space here than we did in Mandan, but what I was able to do was elevate the second row in a few places to make them visible. It's not perfect, and I've had to combine digital and print media here and there, but I'm so much happier with the way they are than the way they were. And now that my home office is more or less sorted, on to...
And now, VideoFuzzy presents Fuzzy Feature.
Yeah, so I finally got this spooky single-season series fully archived, and good as my word, I give you ABC's Minnesota-based 2010 speculative fiction series, Happy Town. Now, the reason this one is titled Happy Town 2 is I shared a decent introduction 4 shows back in episode 101, Happy Town, which, what the hell, Fuzzies, I posted the thing in April, and, well, yeah, okay, middle-aged guy digging around in his media collection, this thing was never going to set the world on fire, but months later that episode hasn't gotten a dozen downloads. What, were you all exhausted for my 100th episode? Okay, well, it's still up there. You can totally call it up and listen to it. Starts around the 15-minute mark. I even included a contemporaneous review for my original podcast, TV is the New Reading.
Ready Clip Show.
That's... The me I was back then had a perfectly good...
No wonder nobody tuned in.
Okay, fine. If a show was going to be a title production, I should absolutely have spent more than 6 minutes with it. And as of that entry, I had only encountered the first 2 episodes of the show. I knew I wanted to spend some more time exploring it. When I sat down in front of my TV with discs 1820, 1825, 1834, 1835, 1861, 1868, 1878, and disc X549 for my current collection to relive the hijinks and misadventures they got up to in the nutty little town of Applin, Minnesota back in 2010. Show opens on a murder in an ice house. Boyd Banks, as ice fisherman, and local peeper Jerry Friddle gets a railroad spike pounded through his skull. This witnessed by a teen girl running home from a secret makeout session nearby. The next day, a realtor is showing a lodger to her new digs. Laura Germ as Henley Boone, moving to Happy Town. as they call it, to start a quaint little candle shop with inheritance from her late mother. Henley is welcomed by Lynn Griffin as Dot Meadows and her lodgers Esther, Joni, Rose, and Irene, the witches from Macbeth, and Sam Neill as the charming cinephile Merrick Greaves. Cinephile, he runs the House of Usher movie memorabilia shop downtown. Dot tells Henley the third floor of the boarding house is strictly off limits, and sneaking up there will get you kicked out. Ooh. Jeff Stoltz plays Deputy Sheriff Tommy T.C. Conroy, with Amy Acker as his wife Rachel Conroy and Sophia Owayak as their daughter Emma Conroy. T.C. is distracted from the upcoming Fall Fest celebration and the excitement of getting his boat back on the water, the Dallas Alice, named for his late mother, by his father, M.C. Gainey, as Sheriff Griffin Conroy, stops to pick him up. Seems there's civil unrest in the town square ahead of Thawfest because Stephen Weber as John Haplin, CEO of the bread factory, town's biggest employer, and others are hanging the big yellow Remember to Never Forget banner commemorating the town tragedy featuring the victims of serial kidnapper the Magic Man. Sheriff doesn't want the banner hanging, feels like a downer. John feels it's the perfect way to remind people of their pain, including his own kidnapped daughter, and incidentally, as CEO of the town's biggest employer, is probably a huge sponsor for the local event and could likely set it up however he wants, which is in fact what he is doing. What John doesn't know about is that secret makeout session at the top of the show. Ben Schnetzer as his son, Andrew Haplin, making out with Sarah Gayton as Georgia, daughter of ne'er-do-well Carl Braven. Oh, the star-crossed lovers. Andrew the rich and powerful, Georgia the poor and tragic. They pretend to be enemies at school, but they also meet up for secret makeout sessions during the day, and it's impossible to believe no one's figured this out yet. But it is a short-run speculative drama, so the situation is as presented. Oh, there's more. They find Jerry Frittle's body in the ice house and notify his widow at the bread factory. Like I said, town's biggest employer. Talking to her, the sheriff, Sheriff Griffin, well, he started referencing the semi-mystical character his conscious mind isn't aware of, called Chloe, asking Jerry Frittle's widow when did Chloe first contact her. The glow from her mouth was the light of the silvery moon. In fact, Chloe is Henley Boone, the new lodger with Magic Man tattoo on her shoulder, and whose mom is very much alive, and she was on the phone with her. Sheriff Griff goes a little crazy later, raving about Chloe and the blood of the wicked, grabs a hatchet off its wall and chops his left hand off. He's committed for surgery and some clearly needed observation, and T.C., played, as I said, by Jeff Stoltz, is roped into sheriffing this odd little burg by Frances Conroy as rest home matriarch Peggy Haplin. Yes, after Griff chops his hand off, Peggy Haplin calls Deputy Sheriff, Griff's son, T.C., out to chat with him, walking alongside the skating ring she had installed at the home, which was completed 2 days after her granddaughter went missing, so 3 guesses what's under that thing. Peggy says the town needs a reliable sheriff, and she's going to advise the town council it be him. T.C. says he'd rather not take the post, says it should be Griff's second-in-command, Roger Hobbs, played by Robert Wisdom, and she seems to accept this. Then that night at the council meeting nominates him anyway. Tension. Drama. And it seems Georgia, visiting Griff at the hospital, is drugged by a mystery man who turns up later at the sheriff's office claiming to be Dan Farmer from Minnesota State Police. George somehow turned up at the Stivaletto brothers' farm. 4 brothers under suspicion for absolutely everything, because they're a bunch of no-good-necks who live by the railroad tracks, and that murdered guy had a railroad spike in his head. So when George turns up drugged at the Stivalettos, they're all distracted debating the lyrics of Carly Simon's 1972 hit You're So Vain when she comes to and flees. What? She was here when we got here. So, you wrapped her up and carefully brought her home? Nah, you just left her on the floor over there. As well as Brett CEO Guy's future daughter-in-law, Georgia is Emma's babysitter, practically part of the newly named Sheriff TC's family, and he storms over there 4 against 1 and beats them all bloody. TC has enough to worry about because, well, it's insane, but the state finds evidence tying his best friend since 3rd grade, Abraham Ben Ruby, as pizza guy Big Dave, to Jerry Frittle's murder. TC goes over to Big Dave's house and finds this process board in his basement, detailing his own little investigation into the Magic Man, and it's Jerry! Jerry Frittle, the Magic Man! It's him! He said where the bodies were, let's go find them! Look, you dork, the investigation went a little cold when the Magic Man disappearances stopped about 5 years ago, and oh yeah, we investigated these things. Jerry Friddle's got alibis for 2 of the disappearances, and oh yeah, if he were the Magic Man, wouldn't it be fun if he were still alive so as to interrogate him directly? Other things that happen, Henley visits Merritt Greaves in his memorabilia shop and buys some lead figurines. The witches surprise her with a little shop set up in the shed where she can craft her candles, but since she's also the mysterious Chloe doing her own investigation, and you've got Bread Factory CEO guy carrying on his own investigation, ooh, they should all get together with Big Dave and start a true crime podcast. All these true crimes that they're all committing. What luck for Chloe to be lodging at Dot's, because ooh, she could poke around the forbidden 3rd floor or whatever she might find there. Drat, it's locked. So weird a restricted area might be locked up, and only Dot has the key. But in an unguarded moment, Henley Chloe grabs the key, runs it out to her shed, makes an impression of it, melts the lead figurine, pours it into the mold, compares the 2 keys, runs it back to the house, and oh my goodness, Dot has nearly discovered her subterfuge, but what luck! Merritt Greaves engages her in a flirtatious dance. Isn't he charming? And Henley Chloe can put the key back undiscovered. Later, Henley Chloe Boone sneaks up to the 3rd floor of the lodging house and finds, oh, so many birds, especially a big hawk through the skyport who we learn is called Cicero, the Magic Man's sidekick. And in a hidden recess in the floor, she finds a bizarre hammer shaped like a goat's head, covered in blood, wrapped in plastic, which she tucks into her purse. Henley Chloe Boone's gotta go one town over and get a new car for some reason. She buys one and is promptly run off the road, actually by that big Cicero hawk, smashing through her windshield and flapping around her head until she smashes into a tree. The handsome guy she hooks up with waiting for her car repair, as it turns out the recently released ex-con Greggy Stivaletto, steals the evidence she stole from Dot, but she figures out how to get it back. She's got old lady Haplin to confront. So many things happen. Bread CEO guy's son, Alex, of the secret makeout session rendezvous, tries to frame George's father for abuse, which doesn't work because he didn't do that, but puts Alex's extracurriculars on old lady Haplin's radar. She intervenes, forces him to watch this crazy old German film Greaves talked about once called The Blue Door, running on a loop in the home she runs, which then somehow changes his core personality. Sheriff TC's wife, Rachel, is abducted at the Thawfest, but she turns up again in the following episode, but she can't remember anything, but under hypnosis she can, kind of, not in any helpful way, just weird for the sake of weird ways, like there's this blue door, ooh, and we were all underwater but we could breathe. So interesting because one of the abductees, their hand is recovered, it's condition proof that they were at least recently alive, but it also has a sort of fish squirming around inside of it, a fish with supernatural, perhaps alien, certainly CGI properties. While Rachel was missing, there was a search in the woods that turned up, oh wow, a weird sunken chamber with exactly 7 cages that who other than Big Dave would find. Oh wow, I gotta tell TC. Except he comes back and there's no evidence of any sunken chamber. Big Dave's acting so weird and agitated though that TC needs to shoot him, almost in self-defense. Then later, bird crazy Dot's out there, and it's a lot of different species of dead birds littering the forest floor, and she files a police report. And Dan Farmer, state trooper, today in charge of dead bird sightings, why not, takes her out there and drops her down in the sunken chamber. I guess it's there or not, and can be found or not, depending on who's looking, and ties her to the ladder. Farmer addresses the hawk hanging about there as Cicero, and he's pretty obviously the Magic Man. Oh, but some passing hunters shoot him, and despite his obviously suspicious behavior as he is recovered back into the station, he insists he is truly a state trooper, despite TC not being able to trace any of his bona fides in any capacity whatsoever. For his part, Greaves, of course, he's got a British accent and runs a movie memorabilia shop, so of course, why not him, puts Rachel in a trance to see what she can remember. Rachel, as I said, remembers being underwater, but totally being able to breathe, and is otherwise remembering elements of that bizarre German movie, The Blue Door, which, like I said, old lady Haplin has running in a loop in a closed-off wing in her home. Oh, which Henley Chloe must get in to see it, for the goat-headed hammer she's first found, then lost, then recovered, is proof that Peggy Haplin murdered Dallas Alice. I don't know who Chloe is. I don't know who Griff is remembering as Chloe. Peggy has confronted Merritt about the pointlessness of his movie memorabilia shop and his presence in town, though Dan Farmer and Merritt Graves have some connection that becomes even harder to understand after Merritt first gets Garrett in a train by Chloe to get his attention or something. Then later, when he loses his charming accent and is suddenly your cousin from Boston, inciting some kind of mob to attack the police station, either targeting Farmer or aiding and abetting him. It's a mob in this town, so it is by definition weird. Well, the Conroys, TC, Rachel, and Emma are all somehow there and pinned down in some kind of crossfire. Understand that there are 8 episodes of this. The writers clearly thought they were going to have more. Remember that bloody hammer Chloe found hidden in Dot's B&B, the goat-headed proof implicating old lady Haplin in the murder of Dallas Alice? Well, this is fun. Closing scene of the series finale, Griff went to see Dallas Alice at her bar called Cicero's with a big bird on the neon sign outside. He's the mother of his child, Deputy Sheriff T.C., I feel compelled to point out once again, is played by Jeff Stultz, has been living and working a few hours up the road at Minneapolis, has known that she is in some way involved in the disappearances, and in the last few moments of this ridiculous show confronts her about the abductees. "You never said they were still alive," he said. She grins wickedly. "You never asked." Brain broken. I keep mentioning Jeff Stultz because it's very clear that TC was supposed to be played by Peter Krause for 6 Feet Under. Mean mannerisms, voice, vocal and facial tics and inflections. This actor studied, aced, and graduated with honors from the acting school of Peter Krause. Even some of his scenes with Francis Conroy. "It's clear that you are your mother's son," she says in her first meeting with him. There's no question in my mind. They were angry that Krause was involved in Parenthood and otherwise unavailable for this silly thing. That's not all. It seems pretty clear to me that Henley Chloe Boone was meant to be played by Michelle Trachtenberg, and not just because Chloe was her character's name, and, oh hey, again, 6 Feet Under. Everything about her look, her mannerisms, was also school of Trachtenberg. I wouldn't have been remotely surprised to see her break into a spontaneous swivel hip dance routine. She's come to Haplin to snoop, and that's obvious from the jump. She's not who she's pretending to be, but we never hear the other side of that conversation with her air quotes mother. Griff occasionally accesses an agitated dissociation who experiences Chloe. Chloe could be imagining a mom on the other end of the line. She could be Dallas Alice's daughter. She's a bit too old to be John Haplin's abducted daughter, Addie, but we've got to remember that someone abducted 5 years ago at the age of 11 is going to look different when we see her again at 16. And yes, different than her mother, Carol, in Addie's pageant dress and tiara, lying in her bedchamber as her kinda son, kinda brother, Alex, reads to her from her favorite children's book, Spaghetti on the Moon. "See, Dad, we're all together again." Oh my wow. And again, we got Chloe digging around in Dot's attic. What the hell is a blood-covered goat-headed hammer doing up there? Is Dot holding it for Peggy? Wouldn't Peggy dispose of it? Better than that? And Peggy can't be guilty of murdering Alice Conroy if Alice Conroy is running a bar in the cities and involved somehow in a bunch of local abductions. I'm wondering if even the writers knew what was going on at this point. I mean, sure, there's some clever getting Farmer out of the police station, an ambulance driven by Greaves with stagecraft, sleight of hand, legerdemain, though then sending the confused deputies on their way to walk home was weird. Yeah, I mean, you tried blowing one of them up at a gas station with your truck. Why get all precious about their lives now?
Shoot them.
Along with the bizarre imagery of the blue door, which, quick aside, I can't find a clip to share anywhere, but type J. Sherman student film into a search engine and you're close. I feel like ABC was trying another reboot of Lost, slightly more homespun, but still weird for the sake of weird. Probably the expense was too high. This time period you had American Horror Story, you've got Haven, you're a few years out from Fargo, and I'll point out that all these productions are cable. FX and Sci-Fi, not primetime network real estate, even summer run. You can't spend the way this show clearly spent. Well, in any event, that was certainly more than 6 minutes. Show creators Josh Applebaum and Andre Nemec were involved with Alias and the American version of Life on Mars before this. They both wrote for Early Edition, Profiler, and The Chronicle. Otherwise, no direct ties I could see to 6 Feet Under. Silly as it was, I thought there was enough texture to the storytelling, and I'm sorry it only only got one season. I'm glad I have it. I'm absolutely going to watch it again one day. For sure put me in mind of Reunion and Harper's Island. I guess they were just hoping if they kept enough going on, it would get people invested week after week. And there's just too dang much going on in the summertime to try to follow a mystery with so many developments from one week to the next, however magical the maniac behind them.
I associate many things with many things.
Cross connection.
There is mystical centers of my media collection: 6 Feet Under, Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, Ryan Murphy Productions, and Joss Whedon Productions, or Studio Whedon under Murph. Studio Whedon under Murph.
SWUM.
I think we finally got it. Studio Whedon under Murph. SWUM. Wow, that has taken some finding, and this show hits all the targets. We got long-acknowledged Golden Thread Steven Weber from Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. We got Joss vs. Goddess Amy Acker from Angel. We got Francis freaking Conroy from 6 Feet Under, and MC Gainey from Ryan Murphy Productions, Glee, and 911. This series is covered from all directions. I mentioned Jeff Stoltz and Lauren German roles I suspected the writers would have preferred to cast differently. Roles, incidentally, that would have cemented this show all the more firmly into SWUM. Well, I have no way of knowing that's the case. Stoltz and German did fantastic work, however much direction they were given, or not, to be inspired by any other actors. But since these are the names we have, let's see where we might know them from. Jeff Stoltz was in How I Met Your Mother with Neil Patrick Harris from Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, and Allison Hannigan from Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series, 2 Joss Whedon productions, which, if that's not enough, was also in Bones with Tall, Dark, and Forehead himself, David Boreanaz from Buffy, and title character in the Jossverse spin-off Angel. Lauren German was in Human Target with Mark Valley, who was in Body of Proof, Luke Perry from Joss Whedon's Buffy the movie, and she was in Lucifer with D.B. Woodside from Buffy the TV series. It's no real distance at all. Speaking of vampires, Jade Tailor of The Magicians made an appearance in the 3rd season episode of Alan Ball's True Blood. Also, a 3rd season episode of Leverage featured a friend of mine from my Minot Theater days, Joe Koppinger. I'll be talking with him in just a little bit here about that show. We shared a stage in 2007 Minot State University Summer Theater production of Little Abner, me as Pappy Oakham, and Joe as Earthquake Magoon. Joe Koppinger showed up uncredited in the 3rd season production of Leverage with John Schneider, who showed up in season 5 of Ryan Murphy's Nip Tuck. Of course, Leverage more often features Christian Kane from Joss Whedon's Angel, so that's 2 direct ties to the Mystical Center Media Collection in this episode, which also featured Beth Riesgraff's more usual thief character's transformation into Lady Gaga, as voiced by Cousinette. Fun find. In his credited work, Joe Koppinger appeared in video short Sins of the Father, co-written by Adam Dias, who also worked in Call Center, featuring Tony DeMille, who was in Bull with Freddie Rodriguez of 6 Feet Under, which is a little circuitous, but solid. Thematic connections included 1940s time travel episodes from the 4th season premiere of Eureka and the 2nd season of Warehouse 13, both referencing the establishment of their installations. Warehouse 13 featured long-acknowledged Golden Thread Mark A. Shepard. Speaking of long-acknowledged Golden Threads, Patrick Fischler, identified as such before the designation existed. I found him in the opening scene of 1990's Kevin Spacey vehicle, Swimming with Sharks. I archived both seasons of Gallivant when they aired that production on Hulu, which, from the Buffyverse, featured Rutger Hauer and Anthony Stewart Head, who was also in the Whoniverse with Kylie Minogue and Matt Lucas, and then Weird Al Yankovic, who I'd seen even more recently in the Seth MacFarlane reboot of Naked Gun. Classic. Finally, Richard Kind of Mid-Century Modern, Burt Reynolds from Finding Out Archer is Ticklish, and Stephen Culp, Rex Van de Kamp from Desperate Housewives appeared in 3rd season episodes of Burn Notice. Alan Ruck, Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, appeared in an episode of Persons Unknown, and Garrett Dillahunt of Raising Hope appeared in the early 1st season episode of The Glades.
Attention children, quiet please.
Today I read
Book report.
I mentioned up there I finally got my home library put together, and it includes a bunch of finds I brought with me from my DC and Chicago trip in May. Author and All About Agatha podcast host Kemper Donovan interviews mystery authors on his podcast and has inspired several additions to my collection, including 5 by Lucy Foley, a quite intriguing entry by Anita Prose, and by Sophie Hannah I found 2 more I had not yet read and pre-ordered another one that's coming out this fall. Lucy Foley is a fantastic writer because her books are just coming at you from every direction, and you really need to approach the narrative as a fire hose of fascinating data you have to tuck away as you're able because it makes the resolution so much richer. My first experience with her is the guest list, which I think I mentioned elsewhere, centered on a destination wedding with a story told as they felt like it by 5 primary narrators of varying reliability, resolved, I would say, satisfactorily in the end. While putting this room together, I took the time to read her first release, The Invitation, which is a narrative spark that traces madly through a 1950s cruise along the Italian coast, a vibrant Contessa I feel certain I've met, an independent film she has produced based, however loosely, on her family history and lore and the people with whom she surrounds herself. I feel blessed by her memory in this fictional account, in which I don't feel the chief narrator is entirely truthful as regards his own transgressions, but why should he be any different from anyone else we meet in this work? The characters develop effortlessly, their stories weave in parallel, and in the end it's not a mystery we've solved, but an experience we've explored, and I look forward to reading the other 3 works I have by her. In The Mystery Guest, author Nita Prose's maid character, Molly Gray, is strictly constrained in her role by form and function, but working inside these constraints finds all the freedom she requires to ferret out wrongdoing, largely as a means of self-preservation. Her close attention to detail has put her on the suspect list once before, and when foul play again rears its ugly head at her workplace, the Regency Grand Hotel, she makes very clear from the first that she's not to blame. Because her presence at the hotel is so tightly defined, however situationally expanded her duties, Prose takes full opportunity to explore in flashbacks Ms. Gray's past association with the deceased, a man renowned for his mystery stories, all the while poking about among the staff and hotel guests, which include a coterie of his biggest fans, all in hopes of saving not only herself, but a maid in training she's personally vouched for, thereby imperiling her own post. I have met, known, and worked with all of these people, and loved meeting them in this configuration and this satisfying murder mystery. I look forward to reading more by Ms. Prose when I get the opportunity. Along with new authors, I've taken the opportunity to expand my holdings of authors long beloved in my collection. I secured the omnibus collection of Agatha Christie's short stories from a Kindle, so together with the millennial-era novelization of her plays Black Coffee and Spider's Web, I should have the vast majority of her works in my physical and virtual shelves. Another podcaster I follow, Caroline Crampton, recounted a collection of short stories by author Dorothy L. Sayers with which I was unfamiliar, her Traveling Salesman Montague Egg series, now secured to my shelves. It was the first Sayers release I purchased since reading her posthumous collaboration with author Jill Patton Walsh called Thrones, Dominations, which was structured entirely on the late author's notes. I also added a second posthumous collaboration, this one by author Stella Duffy with Niall Marsh, called Money in the Morgue. I'd otherwise collected and read all the Marsh novels and look forward to rejoining long-beloved characters in this new adventure. The authors bringing these creations to life, the anthology of new adventures for Agatha Christie's Jane Marple, Sophie Handa's exploration of some Hercule Poirot's earlier case files, Patton Walsh, and Duffy's work with established beloved characters of Lord Peter Wimsey and Roderick Allen. I've only ever seen them as extending my experience with these lovely creations. I can't read them and say, oh, he would never say this, or wrinkle my nose in distaste as a new author recounts a trip or an encounter not hinted at in the original canon. Think of a person in your life you know best. Imagine they've left your sight for a moment, and learning they've met a juggler or a famous French chef, and saying, oh, that could never be. Then it dawns on you that anyone could be doing anything at all the time. I mean, unless you're right there, how would you know? As long as they're behaving more or less as themselves, I'm absolutely along for the ride. Finally, I was able to complete my collection of Brother Cadfael books and read one of them ahead of filing this report, A Morbid Taste for Bones, a bit of editorializing there in her book title by author Ellis Peters. It came out in 1977. I was 7 years old. I realized when I was shelving these that my collection started with her second book, One Corpse Too Many, so I tracked down her first, 4th, 11th, 13th, and 16th books, thus completing the canon. Brother Cadfael was introduced as long established as the herbalist of the Abbey of St. Peter and St. Paul's, 15 years with the brothers, their post-long and fascinating career in the Holy Land with the Crusades. The Abbey prior is jealous of relics acquired by a neighboring abbey as when one of the brothers has an ecstatic vision of a Welsh saint long interred to her homeland. The first adventure takes Cadfael himself with a party to that homeland. Gwyneth of Wales is interpreter and ambassador between ham-fisted prior, pie-eyed visionary, and disgruntled locals, one of whom turns up murdered, and another potentially framed for his death, unless Cadfael can put it right. With a subsequent series of 20-some novels, this book got that saga started off just fine.
Diving into my classic collection.
Ah, yes, the reason even for this podcast, my media collection. In my classic VHS DVD collection, this set covered discs 1901 through 1925, I mentioned a third season episode of Leverage, featured a walk-on appearance by Joe Koppinger of Minogue, my friend and former castmate from Minogue Summer Theater production of Little Abner in 2007. And as he reminded me while we were talking, a student-run production by the Mouse River Players as well. When I saw the episode, The Studio Job, turned up in my archive on disc 1910, I recalled the social media post he'd made at the time, which called my attention to that episode in particular, and when I found it, I messaged him with a screen cap from about the 5-minute mark, and also shared to VideoFuzzy's Instagram.
Joe, thank you for your time. My word, okay. First, please introduce yourself to the fine folks here.
My name is Joe Koppinger. I'm from Minot, North Dakota, and I appeared on the Studio Job episode of Leverage. I believe it would be season 3, episode 6.
Yeah, it was one of the season 3 entries. They're at a honky-tonk bar in Nashville. They've got the neon, they got the music, they got the activity, they got half a screen full of Earthquake Magoon, telling people this is a boot-stomping, yee-hawing situation. They got the vibe immediately. I mean, that's not an accident. 3 years and this team knows what they're doing. But yeah, first, how did you get involved in the shoot? What was it like to be part of it?
Well, at the time I was living out in Oregon, and that's where the production of Leverage was. All the episodes are filmed out there, the first few seasons. And I had an agent, and she said, "Have you heard of the show Leverage?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "Well, you know Timothy Hutton?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, Timothy Hutton, Oscar winner." Yeah. And she said, "Well, I have an audition for you there." And I went to a casting director by the name of Lana Wienker, who was just a sweetheart. She had cast the Twilight movies, The Road with Viggo Mortensen. Anytime a big production was out in Oregon, she was the first, in the Portland area. Mm-hmm. She was the first one that they would contact and get a hold of. And I went in for a few auditions for them, which was a first really for me. And I mean, it was nerve-wracking. I have a theater background where you audition and you're more comfortable when you know the people around you who you're auditioning with and the director. I didn't know who any of these people were, and of course you had to be prepared for it. And the one I did audition for one of the roles in the episode, and he was the kind of the DJ type person, but someone else had got that, and I was like, oh. But then they said, well, we're going to need some extras. Would you like to do that? And I'm like, I'd love to. That'd be awesome. So you get there. It's a huge bar in downtown Portland. It was the funniest thing. Craft service has all country or southern food, to make us all feel legit. And it was a blast. It really was. I met wonderful people, and the scene that I had, I learned really quickly to, when you get a part in something, just to kind of keep your mouth shut, don't say anything, because you never know where you're going to end up. You're either going to end up on the small screen or you're going to end up on the cutting room floor. So, unfortunately, the scene that my partner, the scene where that I come in, we come into the bar. And then at that point, we're just kind of a setup to when John Schneider, kind of walking in, his character, who was a wonderful person, Bo Duke from the Dukes of Hazzard. I was so thrilled because, I grew up with the Dukes of Hazzard. You watch Friday night on CBS, you had the Dukes of Hazzard, you had the Incredible Hulk, and then if you're lucky enough, you could watch the first part of Dallas, So that was cool. That was interesting. There was a couple things there was a part that was cut, but the experience that I had just doing that was how fast it was. Yeah. It was just just boom. And then you think, well, okay, maybe I'll get another shot at it. But it was like, no, it was good. And the cool thing about it, too, is Jonathan Frakes, who Star Trek Riker, he directed the episode. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing to me was meeting these people, we're standing there, and the hostess was there at the computer. John Schneider was there. They were doing their lines. And then we were kind of just standing there. And Jonathan Frakes came over, and him and John Schneider were talking. And, unfortunately, a couple of the lines that my partner and I had were cut. But I was trying to get my face relaxed because I was so tense. And Jonathan Frakes said, "Oh, that's Patrick and I, we would, before a scene, if we felt nervous, we would transform into these creatures." And he was crunching his fingers and making these weird faces. And I'm like, this is freaking awesome. I'm like, holy crap. Here, it was so cool. It was such a wonderful experience. And there was a couple of scenes in there that were filmed. I mean, it was an all-day affair, and it took all day long to do that. But it was a blast. It's amazing to see. I have had other experiences being an extra and doing other things, low-budget type movies and stuff. And the thing that I thought was interesting was the assistant director of the episode. I can't recall his name. He was a production assistant in the movie The Patriot that starred Mel Gibson, and it had Heath Ledger in it. Well, the funny thing about that was the reason why him and I got along was because back in 2000, maybe 1999, I took part in that movie when I was doing stuff out in North Carolina.
Oh, in The Patriot?
The Patriot. I was one of the British soldiers that burnt down Mel Gibson's house. So that's where it's almost as if as soon as that was dropped, then you connect, you're connecting with somebody who's kind of like in the same situation I was in. I didn't really know a lot of people there. So there's that little connection. So him and I would sit and talk about what it was like and, filming down in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and how hot it was. And wearing this thick British soldier. Anyway. But so I think that kind of helped me out a little bit with that. It didn't help me with getting my scenes cut. But as when that happened, it was just kind of like, well, was I horrible? But no, it's just a time reference. They film the episode's about 40 minutes long of filming, and they film maybe about 55 minutes, and then they just keep what is interesting. So,
and it's all storytelling. Like I mentioned, I think you were part of establishing the scene. I mean, that really got us into what kind of a space we were in. And I mentioned Earthquake Lagoon because we were on stage together in Little Abner.
I know.
Seven. That was fun.
Was that the only play? I keep thinking we were in the Roger Maris play together too, weren't we?
Yeah, Ryan Hauer's production.
Yep, his show.
That was really good. It was. I just loved that experience. It was just fun.
Yeah, I loved it. Little Abner was just...
Yeah, a completely different space, though. I think they had just completely renovated the labor hall not too long before when they established the Arlene there for the Mouse River Players. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, it's all storytelling. They got all the footage that they're cutting together, and then unfortunately, it's cool that you were able to do more than we saw on the screens. One of the things I was noticing, Leverage was uncredited. You mentioned a couple of other extra situations. IMDb had you in Sins of the Father in 2015, which just cast and crew looked like it was a local production with Adam Dias, and we were in the Roger Maris, the Lil Abner. Any other productions you've been in?
No, not really. I just kind of stepping back from all that right now. I still audition occasionally because I mean, since COVID, I mean, you can be living in Langdon, North Dakota, and you can still get an audition somewhere. You just go online and do it. I've done some voiceover work in a couple of video games.
Oh, cool.
But it was nothing really. I was one of the in the Batman Arkham Knight video game. I was one of the. Here he is, guys, it's Batman. That kind of weird stuff. I said about 50 lines and.
Well, that's Mark Hamill, right? I mean,
Mark Hamill was the Joker, and I never met Mark Hamill, but that would have been cool.
It's fun to be in projects like that where, people are. North Dakota's not the crossroads of the world when it comes to filming productions.
Yeah. There's a gentleman here. He has a production company up here called Canticle Productions, and he's done a few movies up here. Daniel. I can't remember his last name. I'm sorry, Daniel, if you listen to this. Mm-hmm. I've auditioned for him a few times for some productions that they've been filming. And one of his End of the Rope Canticle productions, that film is actually, you can watch that on Tubi.
Oh, cool.
There's a lot of local Minot people that are involved in that. And he just got done filming another one up here, but I didn't really pursue any kind of auditioning. I did audition for a summer theater show last summer, which I haven't done summer theater in a long time. Mm-hmm. They were doing Fiddler on the Roof, which I'd been in 98 up here at the amphitheater. But the scheduling didn't work out, and so that's just kind of a thing that happens, you know.
Real life absolutely has this terrible way of intruding on trying to actually pursue fun stuff.
That's the one thing. When 98 and Fiddler on the Roof, I played Tevye. And you're on stage. You're on stage for 3.5 hours.
You are.
You are on stage.
You're that
singing,
show.
You are sweating. You are stinking up the place, either with your performance or your body odor or whatever. But the thing that I found so interesting about acting in front of a camera is it's almost like cheating.
Uh-huh.
Because you don't have to be. You have to be in the moment.
Yeah.
But they build you up to that moment. But when you're on stage and if you're on stage, you're in the moment for 2 hours. It was a really good learning experience for me because when I was out there, I did a short with the Art Institute of Portland, student film stuff. Okay. I also was in a couple of low budget horror movies that they made out there. I played a demon in a sewer. Don't want to talk about it.
No.
But it was such a great learning experience because you learned how more relaxed it is and how you just kind of they want you on the second you get there. I mean, you're on, and then you're done. And then you're done.
Yep.
And it was just, you have to have your line. If they want to do some improv or if they want to do a couple little things. And I learned that through the audition process too. There was a couple of times where Lana Vinker was like, you got your lines down. Let's just play around a little bit. So then, they start asking questions and then you kind of do the character a couple of different ways, that kind of stuff at different speeds. But the thing is, when I said it kind of felt like cheating was because you didn't have that, when the lights go down and you do your curtain call and you walk off the stage, you didn't have that.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to check, you'd mentioned that you worked on a podcast?
I've got a YouTube channel called Crazy Hungarian.
Uh-huh.
And it's just, we do a live show, me and some friends from all over the place. I got friends from New Zealand. And what we do is we talk about Bronze Age, 60s, 70s, 80s, comics, pop culture. I have videos that I pop up every once in a while to show what I've gotten that week. I've been doing it for about a year, and I have, 427 subscribers?
Fun.
I mean, that's not horrible. I mean, it's not. It's pretty good for just kind of a little part-time thing that I do.
Oh, very cool.
That's fun.
That's wonderful. I'll have to check that out, and I'll let people know about that too. And I really wanted to thank you so much for your time and willingness to chat about it. So cool to know somebody who is involved in that.
I love this because I don't get a chance to talk to someone about the experiences that I've had, and I really enjoy this. I thank you so much for even the thought of it, because it's just kind of awesome. I love it.
Thank you, Joe. My word, so appreciate your time. That trip down memory lane. I went in and pulled a couple of screen caps from Ryan Hyder's production. We both appeared in both of those original shows, Roger Maris on stage and Rounding Third Heading for Home. Did make it to Utah with us, and I posted a few screen caps to VideoFuzzy's Instagram. Through IMDb, I was able to track down, Joe mentioned Peter J. Dowd Jr. was the assistant director he reconnected with on the set of Leverage from their work on Mel Gibson's The Patriot, and North Dakota-based Canticle Productions is run by Daniel Belinsky, who he mentioned that company's End of the Rope is available on Tubi. I'll have to track that down. I did take a peek at Joe's YouTube channel, Crazy Hungarian, which looks to be a fun weekly panel commentary on comics and pop culture everyone's reacting to. Check that out if you get a chance as well. Other shows that turned up in this set found several series and season premieres. Matt Passmore vehicle, The Glades, technically showed up last set on disc 1900, but I got to see the rest of it in this set and a few others as well. The Glades is a regional procedural that looked like a down-market CSI Miami, highlighting a slower-paced Florida investigative environment centered on a cop who's moved from Chicago to the Everglades to be a fish out of water and marvel at the hominess of the murder investigations he encounters. Boston-based Rizzoli and Isles starred Angie Harmon and Sasha Alexander in order as Detective Jane Rizzoli and Medical Examiner Maura Isles, taking on the meaner streets in Boston, establishing a serial killer targeting women in the pilot episode. Rizzoli's working hard to be taken seriously, but getting scut in surveillance duty, partly because departmental corruption, but also the kind of drama they write into pilot episodes to get us watching. It did feel like it got the show off to a good start. It just always makes me wonder about what the heck was going on before the show started. No one realized some of these calls were coming from inside the precinct. The chemistry between the two leads was strong and gave the show a lot of watchable qualities. I think they were trying to set up Rizzoli as some kind of super intuitive profiler without getting too official about it. Thought I'd watch this one for a little while, though from the cataloging it looks like I gave The Glades more of a chance. I also archived several entries in the USA Network's romantic spy thriller Covert Affairs, pilot episode appearing on disc 1903. Ooh, this new spy, she's so impossibly talented with the entrance exam that halfway through the written they pull her back in and make with the assignments, regardless of recent heartbreak, and oh yeah, it seems she's a mom of some sort. That's USA Network's Covert Affairs. Production ran 5 seasons with Piper Perabo as Annie Walker.
You dirty bird.
No, that's Annie Wilkes from Misery, a Stephen King production like the sci-fi premiere of Haven, loosely gotten down the road on the strength of a short story, The Cincinnati Kid, referenced directly in the pilot episode, which I found on disc 1905. The initial episodes absolutely referenced some creepy goings-on around this little New England town. And something really important was going on with the Doctor Who 5th season finale, something about the exact nature of the Pandorica, something about Van Gogh painting the TARDIS exploding, and I bet when I'm done with all this cataloging, I can scroll back and have a nice deep think-through about Dr. River's song, the Church of the Silence, the Papal Mainframe, and everything that just happened here with Rory and the explosion of the TARDIS Amy is somehow experiencing as our son, and cracking the 6-year-old's universe crafting nightmares, but I just gotta get through this. On the one hand, yes, we just had a major upheaval in our lives that carried us states away, and we're still not in our forever home. I just spent easily 6 weeks getting my office the way I need it to be, my home library set up mostly chronologically. I don't in any way hate it. When our books and media arrived, it was like everything had been unpacked and repacked quite haphazardly, and it was the value of 3 solid weeks almost getting my files reorganized to even begin to understand what got lost in this move. I know I'm missing Coco and Rocket Man, and Noises Off, Mulholland Drive, Moulin Rouge. Weirdest thing, I seem to be missing 1 disc from my disc set of Mark Valley and Keen Eddie, and then after I ordered a replacement, the missing disc turned up. And so many things I don't even know that I don't even know about. All the VHS copies of everything were going to get digitized anyway, and I was already able to access Noises Off from our subscriber service, which is how we're getting our TV now. I got Coco for my Disney Plus subscription. I am missing my DVD of Forrest Whitaker and Vantage Point, but fortunately that just turned up on disc 1909. I will replace the missing parts of my soul. I had a homemade disc set of Legions vanish. Obviously, I want to rebuild that absolutely fantastic way of experiencing this incredibly trippy-ass series. So, thoughts. Certain I've got thoughts about the 5th season Doctor Who finale, the 4th season premiere of Eureka, the 2nd season premiere of Being Human, and the 6th season premiere from the closer in this set. And another callback from my VideoFuzzy, the soundtrack reboot. A 1st season episode of Glee I found on disc 1904 had them all singing and dancing to Keep Me Hanging On. I highlighted Kim Wilde's cover of that song by the Supremes. Keep Me Hanging On, 1966, The Supremes. Lyric video popped up with still images from studio promotion, and oh, wow, the colors and the vibe. So, 60s. Then you get Kim Wilde here appropriating everything and acknowledging none of it, but that's fine. I mean, how many times during the Where Did Our Love Go coda did Soft Cell stop and remind us all it's also a song by the Supremes, or Phil Collins stop during You Can't Hurry Love and remind us all it's also a song by the Supremes? Checks notes. Did the Supremes write all of the music in the 1980s? Let's see if I can track down their version of Karma Chameleon or It's Hip to Be Square. But yeah, do yourself a favor and pull up the official video, which looks like it was filmed before a live studio audience. Some German talk show called Na so was. You've got Kim Wilde dressed as a Mummenschanz with Daryl Hall's hair on a stage that resembles nothing so much as the hole-in-one set from Price is Right. And nobody, absolutely no person. Video at the 3-minute mark, Speedo guy floating in a wading pool, stage left, just hanging out through this entire performance. Just, wow. Was Nazovas a Graham Norton production? That was fun. But yeah, significant episodes of the universe, Parks and Rec. I mean, the whole concept of can versus should in the Sweetums episode, and the test of loyalty when Ron gets shot in the head. I mean, I could spend this entire episode on the implications, but no, really. It's been weeks, well over a month. We're into September here. I gotta somehow get this thing in the... I'm not even halfway done. The time it's taken to write this, I've archived a dozen additional discs in my current collection. It's definitely something to look forward to, but okay, seriously, I can dig into the commentary a little more once we got less stuff going on around here, I promise.
Checking out my current collection.
For my current direct-to-digital collection, I'll level with you. Like I said, I've archived like a dozen discs since I posted my blog entry for this more than a month ago now. I'm not digging into all that here. Instead, I'll focus on the couple few I post and deal with the rest next time. Apart from just stuff going on in my life and the logistics of getting my space updated and livable, the follow-up to my 8th anniversary episode, He Who Is Groovy Must Be in My Movie, featuring the Groovemeister himself, Jesse Zimmerman, not once, not twice, but so many times. All of the times. I love that dive back into my interview segments, but real life required some serious attention after getting that put together. So, having done that, here we all are. For one thing, as promised, along with 5 LPs in my music collection, my conversation with Guadalajara artist and DJ Benjamin Cole covered the videos he crafts for his music as well, and I felt this was the right place to get into that with him. I archived some 20 videos posted to his channel on YouTube, and that link is in my show notes. These entries cover a range of more lyric-focused sing-along videos, a few low interactives where Benjamin is by himself in largely generated environments, a higher energy ones where he surrounded himself with great beautiful bears and party environment, and a few more deliberate, more intricately plotted ones where the video is part of the story he's telling along with the song. A couple we talked about. I talked about his Two Become One entry in our VideoFuzzy the Soundtrack Osito conversation, which he said was the first duet he produced with his now husband, Jose Spinan Cortez, and then about his work with Jeremy Morse, a Barry he's put a couple of these together with. Well, we got him right here. Let's talk to him directly. Benjamin?
Video out.
Your artwork is always very inspiring too, and I did want to ask you about your videos. It seems obvious from the video, but what was it like working with Jeremy Morse?
Oh, well, he's here, so he could... Well, it was fun. We had been having an online friendship for a while back then, and I told him, I have a crazy idea. He already did I'll Be Good. He was dancing in the video for me, but that was Jose shooting Jeremy on Chicago. They were there, I wasn't there. But then for Tell Me Why, it was like...
you were absolutely there. The two of you were very much there.
No, I was very naive because I outlined the video and I didn't think about it. I didn't think of the consequences or whatever. I told Jeremy, I want to do a video about two bears in a fancy setting because we always are the first to die in the movies. We are always the hobos. And no, we have to look fancy in a fancy place. And I want to also tell people that they shouldn't forget to use condoms. Because PrEP is fantastic, but it will not protect you from gonorrhea, syphilis, or...
Yeah, to be, conscious of,
So, my idea for the video was the two guys are in the house. There were changes in the script because at first it was going to be, we are already a couple. Then it was like, no, we are doing the ring thing, giving the ring one to another. No, in the end it was he's selling me the house. And the thing is, we had a love scene that was him pulling me at the condom. And I didn't thought, I was, when we shot it, I was like, I'm not going to be able to put this on YouTube.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, we're so limited. It's like how explicit we can be, even in important imagery like that, like what you're talking about. So it does end up looking like a very intimate celebration of a couple, but also this. This kind of gets into like what I was going to ask you about was your you really do share a lot of yourself with us in these videos, and I wanted to ask what your response has been. Also, how you feel about this more visual part of your creative product.
I face all these music videos and all these photographs and everything as a performance. For me, they are part of the character and part of the way of expressing those songs. And since I take it as a performance, I go all the way. I don't put... it's like improv. One of the first things I did when I decided to be an artist again in 2015 was to go to acting classes. I was a year on improv with a teacher. And because I told him like that, I want to be raw and not think of anything I do. I want it to be real, no matter the consequences.
And in order to do that, you need the tools, visual presentation, showing yourself how you express emotion. So, that's some good background into getting ready to do.
You need preparation, because I also wanted to present something that was nice for the community and that was a good product and quality thing. So you have to work on yourself and do the best you can on those. And to come back with Jeremy, it was fun. We met in person just 12 hours before shooting the video. We were laughing all the way. And
you had some beautiful on-screen chemistry, I'll just say that.
Because we were, if you see the reel, you'll see that we were with each other. It was like everything insults, and because we were nervous both. And the fun part of that is many people think it was real. And that we are a couple. Jeremy and I, we have never had any real thing among us. But the chemistry is there, and people react to that, and it's fun. And we are very good friends, and we love that for the community. That's beautiful.
I do think that that's part of celebrating bears and celebrating bears in music and also in art. And we don't always... We're often the comic relief. We're often the joke.
That's why.
This is serious. People have serious, real emotions.
That's why. That's my point. That's why. Tell me why it's like that. Because I wanted to present bears in a fancy situation without subtext. The comic relief there's no. They are attracted to each other. They are living the moment. And I think that's what people reacted to. And the other videos is like the same. When we did Beautiful Nothing, it was about, we want to do a pool party that feels like a dream.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're depressed, you're alone, you come here from the book and you get into the pool party. And there's no judgment at all. Whereas in other videos, there's judgment and objectification and that's something I don't like. And I'm always trying to it's simple. We are regular people.
So poetic and absolutely so beautiful. Walk Away With Me is just it's a beautiful song. And
Walk Away With Me, I always wondered, there's a Jim Carrey movie I love, that movie when he's forced to say yes to everything. And I was thinking about, what if we did that in real life? We wake up one day and say yes to anything that comes across. And Walk Away With Me comes from a similar place. It's like, this may not be the life we should be living. And in fact, I had a beautiful script for that video. I haven't been able to shoot it. First, because I couldn't find, I needed 2 bears, and I couldn't find the older one. And then I got sick, but the story is about one of the guys. He's working at an office building, and he's frustrated and stopped his day. It's all a mess, and he just walking in the city, ends up in a street, coffee shop. He sits down, and then an older guy comes and tells him something, and they go out from the coffee shop and begin walking, and suddenly reality begins to break around them, and they end up like in a forest, something. It's like allegorical.
Aren't we tired of living in a box?
Yes. Because I think even our community is getting it in a... We have so many labels, that's too heavy to wear. We need to get rid of labels and be more open to the experience.
Thank you so much, Benjamin Cole, you great, beautiful, talented bear. And yeah, the videos absolutely add another dimension to the music. I feel like I gloss over bear culture in these conversations, so quick aside, if anyone somehow got access to this podcast but somehow not got access to Google, bear culture developed alongside other gay subcultures, well, somewhat post the Tom of Finland leather culture that flourished post-World War II and motorcycle culture. Pulp Fiction, and maybe more Ryan Murphy explored drag culture through the disco era into the 90s in the series Pose. Bears were referenced in gay publications in the late 1970s, and my friends were telling me about gatherings of larger, furrier, beardier gay men through the 90s, into when I encountered the subculture in the 2010s, discovering that there were these things called bears, and that I was one. Which was fun. I mean, the most visible aspects of gay culture sort of celebrate youth and insist you cultivate a certain look and vanish after the age of 30. For folks it's really not available to, there's a celebration of beards and tummies and fur and... Okay, this gets a little confusing. The zoo that arises around bear culture, bears, wolves, chubs, otters, is separate from anthro-furry culture. You can absolutely get bears and others that participate, cultivate for zonas and so forth, but probably most bears, etc., are just friend-shaped, chubby or not, bulky or not, scruffy or not. Some lean into muscle bear territory, muscle daddies. I'm a step back out of this here because, again, likely this is not the podcast you're turning to for this kind of esoterica, and as I referenced, you may access the entire internet at your leisure. But yeah, when I'm talking about bears with Benjamin, these are the bears I'm talking about. You can absolutely pull up the videos we reference and see for yourself. I found all the ones I archived from his channel on YouTube, and be sure to check back in a few weeks. He's filming videos for his new CD release, Dance, Love, Dream. That release coming out later this month. In other viewing, I completed archiving Gallivant in this set, which honestly I forgot having watched it first time around. It was a delightfully self-referential romp, stepping outside the musical numbers and commenting on the show itself, like the opening number from Season 2, the lyricist Ellen Menken name-checked in the King's flashback. Oh, and in ways we've absolutely seen before, like the training montage in Team America and Tenacious D in The Pick of Destiny. The story is tragically what happens when you don't have a complete vision for it, because you're at the mercy of budgeting, casting, and scheduling. These realities also discussed in the self-referential show, but in 2014, it'd be hard to argue the field was lousy with camp musicals, and Gallivant stood out. The structure was laid in by the pilot episode. Gallivant, the product of an unhappy home, found true happiness with the beautiful and insatiable Madeline. King Richard, passing through, drags her back with him to the castle, where she develops a taste for the good life, if not for the king himself. Sacking of Valencia, Valencian royals subjugated to King Richard's rule, Valencian Princess Izzy agrees to lure Gallivant to the palace in exchange for her parents' lives. Along with his squire, Sidney, Gallivant agrees to return and liberate the kingdom, unaware he is walking into a trap, and the stage is set for a romp. Pirates, giants, dwarves, peasants, wizards, jesters, palace intrigue. There's lots of moving parts. Kingdoms decimated, wealth redistributed, lots of opportunities for class struggle commentary, the plot sometimes moving along by magical spells, thralls, and treachery, and characters sometimes had ridiculous numbers like the world's least poetical hench waxing rhapsodic, or King Richard singing to an iguana, but since it's Timothy Robinson, you don't complain so much. Kylie Minogue, the off-with-his-shirt queen of the gay bar in the second season opener, was a lot of fun. The edgy chemistry between Gallivant and Izzy was well managed, and Maddie's wandering affections made for fantastic, sometimes whiplash plot developments. The fact that the show began and ended entirely within the dark ages of my collection was a huge motivator in archiving it now. I saw it pop up as available on Hulu, and I was like, well, I haven't seen this in, as it turns out, like a decade. I remember loving it, and I knew I wanted it available if it went dark again. And since that can happen at any time, added. Last year, at some point, I was flying somewhere and I saw In-Flight Entertainment had a few first-season episodes of Schitt's Creek available. I have always enjoyed Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, so I pressed play and, oh my god, how have I never seen this show? This actually isn't the first time I've seen this show. I enjoyed it when I first encountered it a few years ago on Hulu, and it was called Letterkenny. But yeah, along with Huge and Kath as John and Moira, I got to meet Dan Levy as David and Annie Marie as Alexis. The Roses, scrambling as their video rental empire collapsed beneath them because of treacherous account mismanagement. Their sole asset, a little town John purchased for David as a goof a few years back. They'd never once visited, and now it's the only place they have to live, in adjoining rooms. Season 1 was high farce, John ordering eggs Florentine from Stevie at the front desk when one of the bigger problems he's having include the doors being removed from his hotel room by Chris Elliott as the mayor and something brown dripping on his bed. It's not the best moment to try dredging up sympathy for the will provide artistic direction at your postmodernist art gallery for food set, but the weird part is that they are all somewhat sympathetic, and I enjoy the connections they forged both with the town and each other. As I've explored the series further, I've enjoyed the never-ending series of scrapes and unforced errors they're encountered in building this new life for themselves. Helps a bit that this town's industry features an improbable supply of extraordinarily telegenic dating prospects. Oh, and I've been enjoying the Queens of Mystery series that they've been running on Utah Public Television. Seasons are 3 two-parter murder mystery plots set in a far too small British hamlet to support avant-garde theatre, 4-star spa installation, and a sonic surround modern art gallery, along with 3 biddies who are not troubled overmuch by the bookshop they're meant to be running, and whatever deeper mystery their detective inspector niece is trying to uncover about her mother. It's not great, but it is fun, and I do love seeing different takes on the genre. Onward to Season 3. Oh. Well, no matter. Some stories just run their course.
Now let's pull a little something down from off the shelf.
So, while I was tracking down some cross-connections information once, I found a production of Neil Simon's The Sunshine Boys. Unlike the one I've seen by Walter Matthau and George Burns, holy Christ, as Willie Clark and Al Lewis from the 70s, however, this one from 1996 starred Woody Allen and Peter Falk. In that order. Maybe alphabetical. Matthau and Burns weren't alphabetical, not even as Walter and George were they alphabetical. No, the tensions begin with the billing, Lewis and Clark. Walter Matthau played Willie Clark in 1975 with George Burns as Al Lewis, but they're billed as Lewis and Clark, the Sunshine Boys. Lewis and Clark. Lewis and Clark. Never Clark and Lewis. Whoever heard the straight man gets top billing, but never mind. The supporting cast for 1975 production was outstanding. Richard Benjamin played Willie's nephew, Ben. Lee Meredith played the Noise in Doctor's Sketch. Howard Hessman directed the commercial, and Ron Rifkin was the TV director. Rosetta Lenoir played Willie's nurse in that one, while Whoopi Goldberg played her uncredited in the remake. I won't talk about the cast, supporting or otherwise, for the TV movie version from 1977. Oh my god, what were they thinking? Red Buttons and Lyle Stander. You look it up in IMDb and get a denial of service error. Red Buttons and the Sunshine Boys? Wow, don't blow your whole budget on the title card. Neil Simon is listed as a writer, but he's against it. Tell him I'll do it, but I'm against it. Willie Clark reluctantly agreeing to let former vaudeville partner Al Lewis move into his apartment to avoid being sent to a nursing home, and it's called The Odd Couple. It closed 10 minutes after it opened, for Christ's sakes. We now interrupt our regularly scheduled program through an astonishing mix of guilt and altruism. Oh, thank God. Woody Allen and Peter Falk in 1996 replaced Willie Clark's nephew with his niece. Sarah Jessica Parker is also his agent, Nancy Davison. The cast also included Edie Falco, I mentioned Whoopi Goldberg, acknowledged Golden Thread Michael McKean, as well as Liev Schreiber, Jennifer Esposito, and Kirk Acevedo. Fringe. They time-shifted the comedy team from vaudevillians to 1950s TV comics, and ouch, replaced the doctor sketch with a hospital sketch. I'm told this is how Neil Simon rewrote it, so I'll believe it, but okay. Only one reason to spend this amount of time on a remake of The Sunshine Boys is because I was in it in 2001. I'd only been in about half a dozen productions at this point. I'd been Laser Wolf and Fiddler on the Roof. Oh, and I'm looking forward to the Vernal Theatre opening their 10th season with that production this month. I'd been Colonel Purdy in The Tea House of the August Moon. I'd been Floyd Spinner in Love, Sex, and the IRS. Oh, this wasn't even the first Neil Simon production I was in. I had a walk-on as a delivery guy in Barefoot in the Park with a Spirit Lake Pioneer player. Otherwise, I ran lights for that one. And moving to Minot, I read several characters in Reader's Theatre production of Spoon River Anthology, and my director for that cast me as Willie Clark in The Sunshine Boys, and hated me. Oh my god, I was the worst mistake she ever made. I think I've only been in 2 shows where the director was actively hostile to me at the end, but, you know, when you're cast in your first lead role, the cantankerous Willie Clark, a man who appears on all but 7 pages in a 77-page script, which was written in 1973 and is centered on 2 vaudevillians, and you are, for God's sakes, 31 years old, and your direction for aging your body movements is to watch old people at the mall. Look, I'm not going to... Okay, for Christ's sakes, we talk about seeing people on the TV who have been dead for years, and no one's confirming one way or the other whether it's a period piece or contemporary, which there's no way Willie Clark is any younger than 95 years old. Okay, so Woody Allen was fine. He was a little young to be playing Al Lewis up against Peter Falk as Willie Clark. Updating the hospital sketch was so cringe. I mean, the Doctor sketch is terrible, which is why it works. It is all the reasons we needed the Me Too movement. Having Michael McKean direct this candy-coated, child-friendly version of the comedy routine from an era when all the isms floated off the tongue as easily as breathing, well, no wonder it was about 5 lines long. Look, the show works really well as a period piece. If the audience knows we're in a world of rotary phones and cold water walk-ups, they'll accept the letter K is funny. Petty jealousies from 1,000 years ago. Yes, there's a good chance that people will not get the references unless they themselves are 60 to 70 years old, but Willie Clark is a comedian, yeah? My director, for reasons I hate to imagine, had him listening to Fat Albert as the show opened. Oh, good. Now we've got a Woody Allen and Bill Cosby references in the same piece. And, so sorry to hear about Malcolm Jamal Warner's passing. Man was talented. But yeah, my director never explained to me why a man with a vaudevillian background anywhere between the ages of 50 and 100 would be watching cartoons. He could have been napping and something came on. He could have been impressed by Cosby's early comedic instincts. Could have been something she recorded off the something or other. I was very new to this. I didn't know how rights and licensing worked. I know having me alone on a stage, the lights come up and the theme song for Fat Albert comes on made me feel like Ecco Fatto. Behold, the fat one. Then I'm meant to get my ankle caught on the cord of the TV so it unplugs as I shuffle off the stage. And I'm moving too young. It's like, this is not something I'm going to be able to figure out on my own. I'm shuffling, but I also need the cord to do what I need it to do, and I'm, for real, 31 years old, and... Oh, hello. My apologies. This has obviously turned into some kind of talk therapy session to which you've all become unwitting witnesses. Back to the 1996 Woody Allen, Peter Falk, Sarah Jessica Parker release of Neil Simon's The Sunshine Boys. Well, personally, I didn't think any of the updates worked all that well. I didn't glimpse any of the chemistry Willie and Elle were meant to have developed over decades of successful showmanship. I feel like the script forgot which side of the Hudson River they were on multiple times. Here's the big thing. I feel like I'd have accepted Peter Falk as the straight man more, and if this is the casting choice we're going to make in the late 90s, we certainly could have known better. I feel like I would have preferred watching Woody Allen's neurotic, frenetic energy in the role of the cantankerous Willie Clark, and given the billing, I was sure that was what I was going to be watching. Why was I watching it at all? Well, initially when I saw this for sale online, it was in VHS format, and I felt certain that this was the only way I could get it, and I was waiting until we got settled in our new place and my VHS players had arrived in order so I could watch it. This was in fact intended as a housewarming gift for myself, my last VHS acquisition, a version of this show I'd never seen before or indeed ever heard of, and which held some personal significance to me. When I finally placed that order, however, I saw I could get it on DVD, so why not, indeed? As for the production itself, even at the time, I knew I'd love to revisit the role sometime further along in my own timeline so as to engage a bit more deeply with the character. As a more seasoned performer, certainly one with a lot more salt in my beard, I would absolutely be raising any of these performance questions a lot earlier and demand far more satisfactory answers to them. As for the performances themselves, my bucket list roles currently include either Lloyd Dallas or at least Selsden Mowbray from Noises Off and Willie Clark of the Sunshine Boys. Beyond that, any additional time I find myself on stage from here on out is just gravy.
Call this meeting to order. Calling up a little old business.
Okay, we're a little over a year out from when I cleared my mom's space and found a little box set of Rodgers and Hammerstein's classics and a 2012, goodness, as far as I can reckon, a home-burned DVD of a stage production of the Grand Jubilee in Branson, Missouri. I've mentioned elsewhere my mom absolutely loved to go to Branson with my dad, and this is from a time when they were still traveling, hence the autographed copy from, goodness, looks like almost all the performers. The disc has 2 recordings. One of them seems to be from a Christmas production, and I don't think the second half is. No, there were lots of Christmas-themed pop, country, gospel-themed entertainment to the first one. Some of it traditional, some of it, well, whatever you'd call Christmas reimagination of Mickey Gilley and The Girls All Get Prettier at Christmas Time. The high-energy Jerry Lee Lewis piano stylings made up for some of it, but it's Branson. I mean, a venue single-handedly perpetuating the career of Yakov Smirnoff. These are, I guess it's fun that when a guy shows up wearing a dress, they understand that this is the joke, and the guy's in on it, and then it's okay that no misgendering here, this is a male-identifying person in drag. No one is discovering a thing about themselves on that stage, but yeah, it's okay that his impression of Dolly Parton is not convincing. The Rodgers and Hammerstein Classic Collection box set, there were only a couple entries I had never seen before, so I pulled up State Fair from 1945 and Carousel from 1956. My views on these films aren't going to set the world on fire. State Fair romances small-towners with big city types, big band singers, and whiz-bang newspaper reporters who turned the rock over in Iowa and spun heads and hearts among the country mice, but doggone it, those good, wholesome little-town folk made such an impression they swooped them up in their big city lives. So much more exciting than their little-town life in Iowa. And Carousel I've got even less regard for. Former Carney roast about Mary's factory worker and promptly dies, and they've got him shining and polishing stars up there. Well, 15 years later, he hears tell that the daughter he sired is in trouble, so he puts in a bid to return to Earth. When he gets there, no one is in especially bad trouble. His daughter is socially awkward, is all, so he gives her a star, which she refuses, but his widow takes it. You know, I do not know what I'm supposed to like about any of these people. Carney's boss is a shrew. He's fallen in love with a girl he sees hanging around the carousel he's working at, which we see for maybe 2 minutes in a movie named for it, and then let us never speak of it again. Girl's an absolute flake, not helped even a little bit that she's played by Shirley Jones. The whole seaside town is goofy. Dead guy's daughter is goofy. All her friends and frenemies are goofy. The whole movie is goofy. Well, some things you have because they came with the set. Obviously, The King and I is a perfectly good show. Oklahoma, South Pacific, and yeah, okay, Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer in The Sound of Music. It's cool to have a digitally remastered copy of that should you ever want to throw it in. None of it really speaks to me of my mom. Well, Branson recording absolutely does, but there's a time I feel like she'd truly enjoy kicking back and watching the absolute zero stakes. Everyone's going to be fine no matter what. Life in Simpler Times tone of State Fair, the music, the dancing, and the show. People get what they get out of shows they enjoy, and I was happy to finally experience these final glimmers of my folks media collection.
What I've been watching.
And speaking of goofy movies, Ralph and I got over to see Liam Neeson and Seth MacFarlane's The Naked Gun reboot, which was absolutely fantastic. It probably would have been even better if I'd rewatched the Leslie Nielsen entries, but it was not hard to get up to speed. I feel like Seth MacFarlane was the right energy for this. He was clearly a fan and had incredible instincts for gauging and updating the right levels of indignity for this project and this character. Imagine if Leslie Nielsen's Lieutenant Drebin had a body cam. Fart jokes alone. Pair that with the sheer commitment to the bit throughout from actor of Liam Neeson's caliber, read every joke. I mean, he's not really known as a comedic actor, but he totally got it, and he played every beat perfectly, and the whole thing was a worthy homage and successor to the original. I'm not going to go through on plot and substance. That is not what this movie was about. Hell, the whole thing centered on something called a plot device, so it's all just stuff that was happening. But I had to highlight Pamela Anderson, Valerie Irons, C.J. Parker, and now Beth Davenport. Holy God, what a revelation. Yes, Seth had her doing some incredibly corny things, and some of the comedy strayed, but don't let's forget the two significant assets Pamela Anderson brings to a role. Her talent and her commitment. We also got our cultural type butts over to the Ruth and Nathan Hale Theater in Pleasant Grove, Utah to see a production of something they just invented called a musical. Something rotten. That's right, Nick and Nigel Bottom, a pair of struggling playwrights in the height of the Renaissance, consult a soothsayer, Thomas Nostradamus, to learn the next big thing that'll be all the rage in theater. The musical. It's gonna be big. What? Guys are talking and just suddenly burst into song for no reason? That'll never catch on. And, oh yeah, an idea. A big idea for what's the musical going to be about. Well, what's Big Bard Shakespeare's next hit play going to be about? Which he thinks about it for a moment, Nostradamus says, omelette. Well, that gets something rotten going, and the send-ups are non-stop. Reference to every major musical production ever, and a weirdly egg-themed adventure set around a breakfast table in Elsinore, rock star Will Shakespeare right at the center of everything. They're still unconvinced he'd ever write something like this, before the romantic B-plot between Nick's poet brother Nigel and Puritan daughter Portia blow up in a major showdown in court for the show's towering denouement. I gotta say, just for showmanship and presentation, the Ruth is a fantastic space. Closest thing I can think of anywhere I've seen is main stage at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis. It was expansive, set work was on point, blocking choreography made fabulous use of the different levels available to them. Costumes were... This show had a fun amount of self-referential and gender-bending moments, absolutely on theme for a Shakespeare-flavored comic adventure. The lyrics were clever, the patter was fun, cast and crew were sensational. The night we were there, Ryan Shepard as Nick Bottom leaned way into the Mel Brooks energies available to him, which just made me wish there'd been stronger input from Mark Gordon's character, Shylock. A Jew writing comedy for the stage? Unheard of! It was a great night and a lot of fun. Welcome to the Renaissance. Indeed. Hey, who brought all the chicks? So, lots of people have just been upset that billionaires and autocrats are taking it on the chin in James Gunn's Superman reboot, which focuses a little more on how cute David Cornswet is and edgy countercultural Rachel Brosnan's Lois Lane is, and how Sarah Sampaio as Eve, bubble-headed throw pillow for Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, just happened to... There's going to be some spoilers in here discussing this movie that just came out this summer, so if this is where we part ways, well, that is why I talked about it all the way at the end here. I can definitely say go see it. It's fun, it's awesome, and beyond here be spoilers. Still with me? Anyway, yeah, Sarah Sampaio's Eve, Lex Luthor's silly socialite Moll, just happens to get all this outrageously incriminating material in the background of her silly selfies, and multi-billionaire super genius who's done the math to establish stable portals to pocket universes doesn't instinctively know why we don't let our hot girlfriends live stream from the lair. It's giving a lot of DD and Mandark energy. But I suppose he feels secure, agitating for international unrest between not Russia and who said Ukraine, particularly when the leader of not Russia is what happens when Trump and Putin go through that transporter thing together in The Fly. It's a James Gunn production. I'm pretty sure the names of the countries involved were Haywood and Chiblomi. But yeah, Eve's deep dark secret is she's hot for Daily Planet cub reporter Jimmy Olsen, played by Skylar Kazanda. And when Lex told her to go be a pointless dit someplace else for a while, the first call she makes is, "Oh my God, I have so much dirt on my dumb ex you will not believe." Have you noticed how little I've talked about Superman? so far. Mostly because while he's on screen a lot, the plot involves him very, very little. Lex has built an army of metahumans. They are so improbably hyperpowered, and Superman spends quite a lot of the film not driving the plot, while Lois's journalistic integrity skewers him, while schemes are woven to infiltrate his lair and manipulate intel to discredit him, and smear him as some corrupt, untrustworthy alien sex pest when he's imprisoned in some interdimensional gulag with internet hate monkeys in every parallel you can draw with concentration camps. When he is freed by eating a thing as Mr. Terrific, it's like he's fighting a bizarro world version of himself, because that's what has happened to his image in the reality of this movie. He never knew the secret nefarious plans his birth parents had for him in sending him to Earth. According to a necessarily iffy translation of a very damaged and staticky recording released by the ever-so-neutral corporate kingpin Lex Luthor, it was for Kal-El to take over the planet and mate with a harem of Earth women, because Earth is so primitive and stupid it'll be easy to take it over. Which everyone immediately takes at face value, because this whole truth, justice, and American way thing he projected was obviously just an act. Aha! I knew it! Secret harems! I'm probably already in one! Okay, be fair, the level of critical thought involved in consuming media in America was dead on, but yeah, we got corrupt billionaire Lex Luthor spreading that disinformation, and his secret pocket universes leaking into our world and creating physical rifts as well. Superman is pitted against a stupid, mind-controlled version of himself, and at the end of the fight, Mr. Terrific plugs a zip drive from 1991 into a control slot and undoes the rift. The physical interdimensional hole into which the ocean has been draining and the world has been cleaving. Zip drive. Now, there's a time in which Superman would have to fly around and around and around the world backwards really fast to undo this kind of damage, but it was silly then, and it's silly now, and the dog should have bitten through Lex's neck, but I guess Eve's silly selfies revealed actual evidence, so as the movie comes to a close, we can pretend Lex might actually see the inside of a courtroom over his shenanigans. Oh, it is silly. Whatever Lex's motivations are, whatever whiz-bang genius he could possibly be to craft these portals, holy facilities, cybercraft, or henchfolk, his corruption was way too obvious, the collusion too unmissable, and the credulity of the public too disappointing. Quick redirect, can you really give writers and directors any credit if they just held a 20-foot mirror up to us and showed us the news? Oh, and just so I said their names, Maria Gabriela de Faria as the engineer, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, Isabella Mercedes, Hot Girl, and Alan Tudyk as Gary. They were a lot of fun. The whole thing was a lot of fun. Well worth your time, commended utterly to your attention. Enjoy. And with that, as it always seems to be way past time to get this one in the feed, thank you all for your patience and for checking in on my video cataloging project. You can check out my catalog listing along with audio links at VideoFuzzy.blogspot.com, and for past episodes, add, follow, and subscribe to VideoFuzzy everywhere you get podcasts. And if you get a chance, as I mentioned up there, it's back after half a year's hiatus. Check out my VideoFuzzy the soundtrack entries as well, including the rest of my conversation with talented artist, DJ and friend Benjamin Cole. Again, thank you so much, and thank you again to my actor friend Joe Koppinger as well. Feedback is always appreciated. You can contact me through my blog or podcast sites via email at tjaman1970@yahoo.com or through my VideoFuzzy pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. For VideoFuzzy, I'm Terry J. Aman. Happy viewing. It might be amazing, it might just be scuzzy. We'll find out together on VideoFuzzy.